Good morning, everybody. Today's conversation on eBay is going to be about what's your eBay number. And I think there's actually two numbers that I want people to think about, but we're going to talk about just one number today, which is how long does it take you to do everything? And I'm going to go over everything right now with you guys. Um, Everything is, and I'll start from the beginning for me, and then you guys can um, tell me what you think your number is and then what you can do to save time. So this call should be really valuable because everything that somebody talks about should increase your hourly. So you can just, if you omit these things, you make more money per hour. So for me, I spend 10 hours per week sourcing. Um, 10 hours a week sourcing. I spend 10 hours a week reviewing drafts and launching them. So that's about 2 hours a day of launching drafts. I spend 5 hours a week on customer service, returns, and account maintenance. So that's like a half an hour here and there. I knock out all the questions. I make my labels for the next day, which is this. So these cards go inside of my bags, and I had to prepare 280 of them the day before because I do 280 drafts Monday through Friday. So um, that takes half an hour per day to get the items ready. Um, then I have to put stuff away and ship, which takes 10 hours a week to do that. Then I have to measure the items, describe the items, grade the items. That takes 40 hours a week. This is for me to describe the item, grade it, decide if it's good enough to sell. Testing, if you guys do testing, all of that combined takes me 40 hours a week. Then I photograph the item, I stage the item, photograph the item, airdrop the item onto my computer. That also takes 40 hours a week. To prepare the next day, I remove all the tags, all the buttons, and fold the items flat. So during that process, I also sort and get rid of items that are not good. That takes 15 hours a week just to fold everything flat. And if I do that beforehand, then none of the items have wrinkles. Then I pack and store the items in the clear plastic with this card in it. That also takes 15 hours a week. Then editing the photos and building the drafts takes 60 hours a week. So my business takes 227 hours a week. I couldn't not, it's not even possible to do it by myself. So I have 5 people helping, and my portion of it is 40 hours. 4 contractors, they're all paid by the piece. And that's been working out for me because I essentially was reading all the rules for a 1099 contractor in California, and it's pretty complicated. So I can't set the hours. Yeah, I'll go over that again in just a second, Cheryl. I can't go over. I cannot tell them when to work, and I can't tell them when to work, and they have to provide their own equipment. And I can't tell them how to do the job. So I can give them what I want, which is 280 drafts per day is the goal. So everybody has the same goal. So they get the work, they do that part, and they can leave whenever they want. There's two of the girls that work for me are done early. They only take them like 7 hours to do it. The other people take the full time to do it. It doesn't matter to me. I'm paying by the piece, so however long they take is fine. And I reread the E-Myth Revisited, and the most important part of it is the last 4 chapters where it talks about how to systematize people, how to systematize your processes. And this is really interesting. So I just went over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 11 processes. So the last 2, Cheryl, were editing photos and building drafts. So for some people, they can skip that part. If you don't edit photos, that would save me um, like 20 hours a week. Although I'm not doing that work. It costs me 7 cents per photo to edit it. I'm sorry, per item. So for me, it's worth it to pay 7 cents to have the background white. So for some people, that's not worth it, not worth your time. Probably not worth your time if you're doing the photos, because you could be using that time to list more items. But I think 10 hours for me sourcing is a big chunk of time. If I could order my items, that would be nice. I know Matt has a wholesale. Lots of people have people that get items to come to them. Your margin is typically going to be smaller unless it's used. If it's used, you can buy bulk because you're doing all the grading and work. You're cleaning or adjusting the profit into it. So my whole business, this is the number that I was coming to. Sorry, that's a really long about way of talking. It's 9 minutes. It takes me 9 minutes to deliver an item from start to finish. Buying it, taking it home, all of that combined is 9 minutes. So anyone can do any of the processes in my business now. It's that easy. So that being said, as much money as I want to make, I just got to add 9 minutes. So however much profit I make per item, let's say it's $10. If I do that 280 times a day, that's $2,800 profit a day potentially. So that's the objective, is the number. Mine's actually 9.3 minutes because some of the processes take a little bit less time. And obviously there's not an offer on every single item. And also, for the first time ever, I removed the fake sale. So we're talking about saving time. I got rid of that. So I no longer mark my items up and mark them down because it takes too much time. I'm really trying to cut out everything not related. And I'm now subscribing to that thought that you get that traffic boost with best match. And sometimes it takes eBay 12 hours to index the sale. So I get a 24-hour boost when I launch the item. And for 12 hours of that, a customer seeing a price that's 22% higher than I'm willing to sell it at. So I got rid of the fake sale. It's going to save me some time. So that's where I'm at now. And I think the biggest time saver for me would be editing photos. If I could reduce that way down, that would save me a lot of time. I don't know if you can. I can't really save time sourcing because it takes 10 hours to do that. Everything else, I don't know if I can really cut it out. So let's start with Bill. Bill, good morning. Do you have an idea of how long everything in your business takes? Hopefully you can chat. Oh, he'll come. We'll come back to you, Bill. Let's go with Brandon Woodruff. Brandon, good morning.
Morning, everybody. Um, I'm not 100% sure yet how long it takes me to get an item from the time, like how long from the time I get the item to the time that I sell it. Mainly because, some items I ship, some items I drive to someone's house, some items people come pick up from me. So I'd have to work out an average for that. But um, I know how much time I spend on just about like on all categories. So I spend probably around like 15 to 16 hours sourcing each week. I spend about 5 to 6 hours like cleaning, fixing, taking photos. I spend much less time, probably like less than 1 hour listing now, because my wife and I have developed the system where I list my furniture like to a shared photo album with the description, and then she posts it everywhere for me, so I don't have to list. But it probably takes her like probably maybe 2 hours a week to list total. So between the two of us, it's probably about 3 hours listing. And then delivery is definitely it varies very every week. So I spend probably between somewhere, it's between 30 and 40 hours each week on my furniture, and delivery is the one that can vary the most wildly, because Kansas City is pretty large. And I have been working I've been working toward like the percentage of pieces that I deliver has gone way down now. I have many more pickup pieces, and now I charge for delivery instead of the free delivery I did before. So that suddenly a lot more people can pick up. So, but I mean, I'd say my deliveries are probably somewhere between. I'd say they're between 10 and 15 hours a week is my best best guess. But I'd like that. This is a good concept for me to work out how long it actually takes me from the time I get an item to the time I sell it. But just because of the nature of my deliveries, I'm not 100% sure.
So this in the book, the E Myth, I always read the first part and I don't go over the end part very well because the first part talks about the entrepreneur, um, like how most small businesses fail. Most people work all the time but don't make any money. And I was just thinking at the end, there's this part that really unlocked it for me. It says, when you make all the processes, you should sign a contract saying you're going to do it, even if it's just with yourself, because you do that. When I hire someone to do photography for me, I'll tell you how it works. I'm paying her for 280 sets of photos a day. That's her job description. There isn't anything else on it. She doesn't get paid unless she does that. That's the project for the day, 280. And actually, if she does a percentage of that, she gets a percentage of the pay. So the thing is, we need to outline all the things in our business and then sign the contract. You're required to do that. If you skip one of the steps, it doesn't work. You have to do all of them. And the delivery part, see, this is why people have been complaining about the post office. The post office can pick up from your house and deliver to the customer. How could you complain about that service? That's like the maximum. That's definitely the hardest part of your business. And they're doing it for you. They deliver it to the customer for you. And they tell you how long it takes to arrive. Brandon, this is like a good, you have to deliver the item. And I like that time hack that you had where you gave people a slight discount for picking it up, because that's huge. That means you just save that biggest, most complicated part. I wonder if you could have a holding area. No, actually, people would pay for that delivery at some point.
Yeah, people do pay for the delivery. Like, what I've found is if people have a vehicle large enough to haul the piece, they won't pay for the delivery. They'll just come get it. But if they don't, then they will pay for the delivery if they really want the piece. So I haven't. My fear of quitting offering free delivery was I would lose a bunch of sales, but that has not happened at all. Like, I've just probably sold to different people. I think you're muted, Chris.
Brandon, what could you do to save a little bit of time?
Man, that's that's what I'm working out. Like, I every week I revise my schedule and I try to find ways to save time. So I feel like I've gotten it. I mean, honestly, the only thing that I can think of at this point to really like make a big jump in saving time would be to hire somebody for the deliveries. And I'm not sure if I'm ready to do that yet. But just financially, I've been growing it month over month, which is awesome. But I don't know that we have some pretty aggressive financial goals we're trying to hit. And so I'm always I'm in this place back and forth of like, okay, if I hire somebody, is it going to help me really spring ahead, or is it going to be like a burden for several months? And I think it's probably going to be the latter. So I haven't pulled the trigger on that yet, mostly because I haven't found the perfect person who has a vehicle able to, because I do all these deliveries. Like, I've just figured out how to handle and manage and move furniture alone without damaging it. And that was not a skill that I had at first. And I had to kind of like develop it and learn how to do that. And so finding somebody who can do that, I think is a challenge. Not that I'm so great. It's just like it takes a while, So I'm trying to figure that out. Really, I mean, I think the key here is figuring out some way to continue to cut down delivery times, and I continue to ship more items, so that definitely cuts it down because I'm not driving all over. I'm just packing and shipping. But
You just said something that is a huge time saver for me, which is you have aggressive financial goals. I just put this thing in the chat. It's a kick-ass guide to couples goal setting retreat that Gary Keller and his partner put together. They charge like a ton of money if you go to this in person, but you don't need you can just do the retreat at home with your significant other, order some takeout. They go over it, like order takeout, write down some stuff the next day. Um, I mean, actually, they recommend you go to a nice hotel, but since we're in COVID, just do it at home. And this blew my mind. I downloaded this a couple of years ago, and we set our first goal for saving $30,000 for a 6-month emergency fund. So I know my bills are $4,551 a month, we wanted 6 months, both of us not working, um, goal. And so we did this retreat and wrote it down, and it did not take very long to get that goal of the extra emergency fund. And then now you're supposed to do it once a year. We're trying to do it once a month. Go over it. It goes over net worth. It goes over it was what you're doing, actually doing stuff, and it's free. So everyone on YouTube land, and just do that retreat. Even it's the same thing if you're single, but an aggressive financial goal will put everything into perspective. And I forgot to talk about the last part of that, contract part. My photographer only has 8 hours to do the 280 items, so she gets to work as soon as she gets there, and then leaves. And but it when you work for yourself, sometimes people don't put a time limit on it. When you hire somebody, you don't say, hey, take as long as you want. That's not how it works. If you went, and the example I heard was like, if you hire a personal trainer and he didn't tell you how long the workout session was, you wouldn't hire him. If he said this workout's going to be indefinitely long, you would not sign up. You'd want like a 1 hour workout or 6 minute abs. You can't do it without the time. So everything needs to know. Everyone should know in the group, in the chat right now, how long you think it takes you per item. Add up all of your stuff together. Figure out how long it takes you to do a listing. Mine is 9 minutes. I think if I cut out, I think tech is around 5 to 6 minutes if you count everything. Maybe even less, because he doesn't source the items anymore. They come to him. He doesn't edit the photos. He doesn't draft and then actually he does draft and then launch, but I wonder what his eBay number is. Mine's 9.3. And I really want people to put that together. But I love there's a okay. That is a time saver because of urgency, that aggressive financial goal. But also another thing is the contingency plan. What happens when you die? Like, this really helped me figure out what my time is worth, because right now what would happen if I died is my wife would call Goodwill and they'd come pick up my store. That's it. Or maybe she'd come on my YouTube channel and say like everything is $5 and everybody would come get it, and that would be it. The business could not operate without me. I have to figure out how to make it work without me. And in order to do that, the E-Myth makes it really clear. If you can't hire the dumbest, lowest skill, minimum wage person to run your business, then when you die, it will die. Your business can't rely on an expert running it or it will just go away. That's why eBay businesses aren't worth much compared to other businesses, because you have to be an expert. So that's really in my mind. How do I set this up so that anybody can just walk in there and do it? And not there yet, but it's going to take some time. Thank you, Brandon. Let's go with Don. Don, you have a very tight schedule. How long do you think your eBay business takes each week?
Let's see. It seems like I average about 4 hours a day on it. So, I kind of stop from going till like midnight. I try to wrap it up by 10. After working a 9 to 5 day. So it just gives me between having shipping. It usually takes an hour a night. So I get a couple hours, 2 to 3 hours to photograph, list, and test the equipment. And I've been pretty religious about that. And then in the morning here on this call, I launch the drafts. So I draft them, the night before, and then I list them here in the morning. And I would say my pace is cut down a little bit. I have no help right now. So I've been restructuring how I'm doing things, listening to you guys that are, just this last focusing, like the last couple months, about narrowing down categories. So I'm just all in on just electronics for now, and trying to purge all the other crap that I've been buying over the years. So just once again, like a change that's kind of making the things level off. But 4 hours for now. With COVID clearing, I mean, my day job is just getting a little crazy right now. Silicon Valley's back alive. But yeah, I've been getting inspired by your, what you've been doing, and everybody focusing on consolidating or narrowing down their categories. That seems to be just the way to do it. So.
I love that
But
you know your. Go
might
ahead.
have to make it up to the flea market again here pretty soon. I haven't been to a flea market in a while. My buddies, that's just for fun for me. But that Oakland flea market, I might hit it up on Sunday.
It's
It's
awesome.
not raining.
So now that my I'm last time or a couple of days ago, I got there at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't find a parking spot. And I'm like, how am I the laziest person at this time of day? I couldn't find a parking spot in the closest area. I had to go to another area. So that's why I was thinking, wow, there's a lot of people working really hard. It's hard to get there. 3 o'clock in the morning is really early. So to get that first run where you're the first, it's like a super garage sale. If you can get there when it opens, then you can pick anything. If you get there, so there's people getting there at 6 o'clock and everything's already gone. It's 6 in the morning.
Wow.
But
So
not in
you,
electronics, not in
yeah, not
electronics.
yeah, but yeah, 3 in the morning. That's yeah. That means I'd have to leave at 2. Yeah, that's I'll be divorced if I start getting up at 2 a.m. To drive to Oakland. My wife's gonna wonder what am I doing, But
I know.
yeah. So I mean, even for me to get up at 6 is, I gotta balance the family life and not, I mean, your wife's probably pretty cool about it. Mine, we've been married for many years, but I gotta, I just can't just get up at odd hours and start doing stuff on a
Hmm.
regular basis. But I would love to get there. I think she goes to Europe every year. She didn't go this year, so when she's like off in Europe, that's when I'll go up there and I'll camp up there. But for now, I got to kind of stick to a little bit more normal schedule.
So I have these I can do three things that are in odd hours with my wife, and because it's pretty clear. On Wednesday night we record the podcast, so she's okay with that. She has girlfriend time saved. Sunday mornings I wake up absurdly early, and then actually that's it. It's just Sunday morning and Wednesday late afternoon I record the rest of the time I'm with her. So as long as she gets her uninterrupted time. But I was doing garage sailing instead of the flea market, but I can't. She's not okay with me doing both. So because then I would never see. I mean, I would. People need that long, relaxed time sometimes. So it's hard to you know be like we could be at a garage sale right now. That's not like a thing. So but yeah, I think that's been really good as far as thinking about the time investment. And then, this is like now that I realize I work for my store, it just makes it a lot easier. My store is a corporation, or even if it's not a corporation, let's just say it's a store. You work for your store. You have to do all these things in it. And most people would be fired out of your own store, or at least out of certain things in your store, you would be fired. Like somebody was talking about shoe cleaning. If you were cleaning one pair of shoes every 2 hours, you'd be fired. If you watched television while you were listing and only did two an hour, you would be fired. You have to like figure it out so that you're actually working for the boss. Um, and I think that really, really puts it into perspective. One more thought from the book. So in the book, they talk about the way that you make it work for employees in the systems part is you make it an engaging game. And that's 100% how it is for my staff. They're trying to get 280 done so they can go home early. So it's a game to them. It's very satisfying when they do this is how clear it is. This is the pile of cards that go into the items. This is the pile of work that needs to get done each day. When they complete the last card, they go home. It's like it literally is a game. Everyone has the same goal. Now, when you are yourself working for yourself, you have to create your own game. Christine, you have to think of your own set of rules for your game. And I want to shout out Christine because she did something really, really good. She posted, "Today I'm really tired, but I still got my listings up." That is like the name of the game. It's easy to do it when you're feeling great, but she posted that she was able to do it when she wasn't feeling well, and that's huge. That's the consistency part that we're talking about. um you, life's going to throw you curveballs. I was just thinking about that. Can you adapt? Some people, when life throws a curveball, they just lean into it and get knocked out and they're out for the game, and other people just move out of the way and they're fine. curveballs happen every day. Like imagine, like, okay, there's people who email me. Listen to these kinds of stories. I have an abusive partner. They they physically or emotionally torment me. I've been out of the workforce for a long time. I'm physically not totally able to do it. That person's goal is to earn an income and leave that relationship, and they're working with little to no money and in an abusive environment. That's extremely difficult. So listening to that, and I'm like, wow, most of us are have more going for us than we think, and just do what you can. There's always somebody in a way worse situation. For me, that's motivating, because you see people pull out of extraordinary situations by just thinking about the end game. Yeah, Don says that he would be fired if he was on social media during the workday. There are some companies that don't allow you to bring your cell phone. It depends on what it is. Like, I think athletes is a good example. I mean, when you're on the field, you literally don't have anything except for your uniform. So I think it's important to think about this. You work for yourself. eBay is more like a job than a business, to be honest. If I look at it, it's not. Everyone in this group has to work on their business, or their business doesn't make any money. Let's go with Nick. Nick, can you chat in the car?
Hey, good morning.
What can you do to save time?
Oh man, I've been thinking about that a lot. So I mean, it's organizing my workspace. I mean, I'm using the bin system, and I'm finding a lot of the process just isn't seamless. So I think I need to restructure my photo area, and have my unlisted inventory and have the bins all ready to go, so I could just pop them in there. And then I think another thing too would be purchasing in bulk. Sometimes I've been going thrifting, and I'm only maybe for me, it's like I feel like I'm finding only like 5 to 10 items per trip. So if I can kind of make a whole day out of that, get more quality items in one trip, and then focus on the rest of the week on getting those up, and kind of limit my travel time, I think those would be two big things for me.
Are you sourcing? Do you want to source once a week, twice a week?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now once a week, maybe if I can get 50 quality items in that one day, and focus on that. But I mean, I have a lot of backlog on inventory I still have to get listed. So if I can do 50 quality items and then bring my listing habit maybe up to 20 items a day, then start getting through the backlog and working on the fresh inventory and finding on the quality items.
I think I think 1 or 2 full days of sourcing is a great way to split it up.
Yeah.
Or you could do a little bit every day, but I am not sure how to do that. I have to figure out my schedule to go every day, because some people would love to go every day to find a few pieces, but I don't. I guess you'd have to have your route set up, because you wouldn't want to go to the same thrift store every day.
Yeah.
I wonder, now that there's so many more people working at home, I think I could actually do that. There's 200. Matt was saying that because Matt pays less in rent than me, living in kind of the boonies versus where I live, but I have 200 thrift stores within an hour.
Wow.
200 thrift stores. I have 180 Ross, TJ Maxx, Marshall, those stores that people do retail arbitrage. I probably have 10 Walmarts. There's like a lot of stuff here that you could flip.
And
Seven-
I'm right outside of New York City. So, I mean, there's a lot of action there. I just have to start kind of weaseling my way into the proper channels, and I have to focus on my niche. So I'm still kind of working on that, but I'm outside of the bins today. I think I'm going to try to focus maybe on one category, and then see how that pans out, get those listed, and then take it from there.
So I have a friend that lives in New York City that said that as a reseller, you have to have a $100 ASP. If you live in the 5 boroughs, you shouldn't be lazy, because you live in the richest city in the United States, but in such a dense area. I think LA has more money, but LA is huge. New York is tiny. So you should be able to figure out $100 ASP if you live in New York, because space is a super premium as well. So
Yeah.
I hear you, Nick. That's a good thing to think about. Traveling eats up a lot of time. So Malachi is saying he's been able to spend more time now that the government hasn't been promoting propaganda. There's been a massive shift, regardless of your political affiliation. Less people care about who's president right now, so they've switched their focus to making money again. And that has been like a lot of people are thinking about money right now. If you had a channel talking about the stimulus money or something, you would be making a ton of money because people are interested in alternative investments. But I mean, most people spent their stimulus money on a new TV. But the other people there were people who switched their focus from politics to money. People in the chat, I asked, how long do you spend on your business? And some people were saying 12, 15 hours a day. People who are doing the 30-minute method are competing against people who put in a 15-hour day, all in the same business. So think about what time is. Oh, another part of the E-Myth Revisit is you got to pick your goal for what you want out of your own life. It depends on what you want. Like if you want work-life balance, you have to accept that you're going to make less money. The way to make the most money would be to work on your business the most during the day and sacrifice everything. But for everyone, there's a different level of balance for what you want to do. Like if you did that, you might go home to a house full of strangers, and then eventually come home to an empty house. If you spend so much time at work that you don't know your family, they will just leave for sure. That's why I left the car business, because you never get nights, holidays, or weekends off again. And that doesn't really work if you want to stay married. Let's go with Cheryl. Cheryl, good morning. What can you do to save time?
Good morning. I think my biggest time saver will be wasted time. Just not doing what I should be doing. I did look at the list that you put out, and because most of my sourcing is further away, I would say I probably would spend an 8-hour day sourcing, because part of that's drive time. So one day a week sourcing when I can. There's a couple local places that I'll swing into, and so that might be an hour. But that's kind of in the afternoon after I'm done anyway. Prep time about 2 hours a week. I've got my draft/listing down to about 7 minutes per item with Tekken's way, but I'm having to go back and improve my original listings and things, and I'm finding a lot of mistakes that I made before, and by fixing those mistakes, those things are now selling.
Right.
So I'm figuring it's worth that time, since I still don't have that many items. I mean, I just hit 400 items yesterday. So because I don't have that many items up, going back and fixing the older ones isn't quite as big a deal. About an hour a week customer service, maybe an hour putting stuff away. It doesn't take me that long, since it's part of my photo process. And then I guess it's about 5 hours a week shipping. So I know I'm well over your 9 minutes per item, but I think I'll get there.
No, but I think that it's just good to know what your number is eventually, because I was just thinking to my wife, if she's like, hey, you need to make $10 more this week so we can buy some more diapers, I'd be like, okay, that's 9 more minutes. If I'm making $10 an item, I just got to work 9.5 more minutes. And then you can tell your spouse, I just, I was thinking about Matt. Matt's doing 50 plus listings a day with just one assistant. If I had to do it all by myself at 9 minutes, I could do comfortably 50 a day. And if I work the entire time, I could do 80 a day, but I would hate myself. If I worked 8 straight hours without any breaks, then it would, because I'd have to switch tasks 11 times, that my brain would be fried. But if you can just even, like the difference between Matt doing 50 a day, having one of the things outsourced and him doing it all by himself is like pretty dramatic, because the mental real estate just really beats you up if you have to switch and do everything. Um, and that's why I like the E-Myth, because in it, he uses an example of a 4-person business where all 4 people do everything. And balls keep getting dropped in the business because no one is responsible for anything. So it switches to all 4 of those people have a primary responsibility at work that they're accountable for. And then the business fixes itself because everyone's like, hey, did this work? And then they know who to call when it's not working. That's why I like in Paul Akers, his giant facility in Washington. Okay, not only does every single task have who's responsible, it has their picture on it. I thought that was really funny. The person that's in charge of putting the toilet paper away, their picture is on that in the bathroom. So you can go find that person if there's no toilet paper. I was like, this is this, $60 million facility. And they've reduced it down to putting a picture of whose job it is on every single job. Just like, then everyone knows this is the person you call when it doesn't work. So right now, when your photos aren't ready, you should put your picture right there and be like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to post my picture everywhere in my warehouse and be like, this is your job to make sure this is ready, because who's going to do it if you don't do it? So yeah, I love it, Cheryl, but I don't think it's much longer than 9 minutes, to be honest. I think my process takes a little bit longer than most people because I edit. Let's go with Brian. Brian, good morning. How can you save time? Sorry, Brian, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry.
Anyways.
Yeah, I think outsourcing is key. Like what you were saying, like I can do 50 by myself, but it's or more, but it takes time. But if you get help, you can get more done. But I also realized yesterday, when you're bringing in people to help, like you've got to take the time to truly train or teach them. Like I had somebody doing measurements, and I thought I showed them a few. I thought no problem, they had it simple, and they did like a week's worth for me, and then I was double checking them, and like 70% of them were off, like way off on the waist and the inseam, and I was so frustrated. I'm like, something that I guess we take for granted because we do it so much. If you're going to bring in help, you've got to invest in the time to make sure you either have the right person and or that you train them properly. So what I'm going to do is, just like when I used to teach, I'm gonna go through the teaching process. Here, watch me do 10. All right, we're gonna do 10 together, but you're gonna do most of it. And then lastly, the independent work. All right, you're gonna do a batch of 20, and then call me when you're done and let me double check to make sure they have it down. Because to go back and have to correct all that was so frustrating. Because I didn't save time. Actually, it actually cost me time. So just being cognizant of that.
I tried something, Brian, that really, really helped with measurements. So I have 2 describers, and I had them both bring a piece of their own clothing the first day, a top and a bottom. I had them measure their own clothing to get so that it matched the way I measure things, because I put in a description how we measure it. So I have them do the same thing on their item. Also, I have them, because they're both women, I have them measure 2 of my own items myself, so they can compare, because sometimes it's hard to tell what gender the item is, but by the measurement, sometimes you can tell. So they have 2 reference points, their own item with their own measurements, and then they have my measurements because they can see me walking around. So that really helped, because now they pretty much guess the gender right every time. And also, as you guys know, that TikTok is really influential, and they're pushing unisex. So you may want to add that to your title if it can be, if it's like a generic type of item. So that's something that really opened my eyes, because one of my describers is on TikTok, and she's like, some of these items could be listed in both categories. So that's something to consider. Like jean jackets are really popular on TikTok, but oversized ones. So maybe you would want to add, you could put a men's small as a women's medium or large in a different category as well. Just depends on how you want to market your items. Premium Comics in the chat is asking about grooming a large store. This is a good point, because Cheryl brought up that she only has 400 items in her store. That's great, because if you can master a 400 item store, then it's the same thing with a 4,000 item store. But if you already have a 4,000 item store and you got to go in and fix stuff, it literally would take you hours to do that. So I recommend one section of your warehouse at a time. So for me, I'm going to go through section 1, section 2, section 3, go through there, literally take everything out of the bins, look at it. I mean, I don't really have to do that, because most of them are only my super early listings. I need to go back and do that. Recently, all my listings don't need to be changed again, but do it right the first time. Oh, and also, Brian, on the call last night, Tech was saying perfect first, speed later with training. And I agree with that. Perfect first, speed later is massive. Just in the beginning, I don't have a in the beginning of a new person, for me, I'm only hourly. There is no per piece, because I
Well, that
don't
makes
know how
sense.
fast they're going to be.
Like I'm thinking, I'm comparing it to like if you're weight training, right? Like you don't go in there and try to lift a lot or crank out a lot if you're doing bench press or squat. Like you've got to get the technique down. So you're just doing the barbell, perfecting the form, and then you could add weight, then you could add speed. So that kind of makes sense.
Wayne is asking, is there a good online resource similar to Photo Room? I hope that there is, because Photo Room is perfect with editing the photos. It just takes a long time. Do I recommend digital camera versus phone? Digital camera is better for the transfer. I spend about 10 minutes a day transferring photos from the phone to the computer. That's not a long time, but it's still 10 minutes. If I could just unplug the memory card and stick it into a memory card reader, I would save 10 minutes every day. That's already an hour a week just with a camera. Also, digital cameras, if I don't know, there's pros and cons to both. I don't like using a digital camera, but I think it's probably because I'm not used to it. The camera that Tech and Sports uses is a Canon ELPH 180, and the new version is the Canon ELPH 360, but the old one's better and cheaper. So I'd recommend a cheap point and shoot. For those of you that do use a camera, the shutter speed is not that fast for me, so I don't know how to speed that up. It takes 5 times as long as the phone. You have to hold it down to focus, versus it's like a double tap to take the picture, versus the phone, you tap it and take it. It's so far way faster on the phone. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's why I switched. Like I was using, the Canon T6i 24 megapixel. It takes great pictures, but number one, the shutter speed, and then number two, it was just so bulky. Like where I got what you recommended, just the strap for the
yeah,
phone just
yeah.
around my neck, and it's so much faster. And so it's like balancing speed versus difference, and a little bit more pixels versus what you're.
Also, the rubber mats save time too, actually, because I think my people are less tired. So the rubber mats on the concrete floor really did make a difference. So that did work. Brian says that he has a stand to put his camera down. I recommend either doing what Matt does with the Velcro and stick it to yourself, or you have the lanyard around your neck, because setting it down and picking it up, that's super slow. That would take a long time. And Tech uses the wrist strap. Also, that's great. I think you should keep the phone as close to your fingers as possible. People are recommending Atomic Habits, the book, one of my favorites. It's all about habit stacking. So last year I did $462,000 in sales on eBay, and this year I'm up 103%. But I really haven't made that many changes. It's like just a tiny bit of changes here and there, and it's increasing. What we're talking about right now is how I did it. Like people saying, like Eyeball Industries is saying, the biggest time hack is to sell similar or duplicate your own item. I agree with that. My description is auto generated, and it's the same every time. And I just put in there something about the color, something about the condition of the item. If I was selling electronics, my custom description would include what exactly I tested, what I did not. Because I think that that's fine. If you say, hey, I tested it, it turns on, but I didn't test if it works or not. So buyer beware that you have less returns. So I think it's important to tell people, skipping any of these steps that we're talking about would result in more returns. Let's see. So Eyeball Industries mixes it up with natural light and artificial. Photos with natural light are better, so they're more accurate. So you can experiment with that as well. You can take your pictures outside. Whatever you do, just do it similarly each time. Dana says, what is the best way to do cropping quickly? Great question. Don't crop would be the fastest way to not crop your photos. Take them exactly how they are. If you're using, normally that's a problem with people who use a tripod. And I thought about like, I tried that system where I took a picture and then I zoomed in and then screenshotted that picture for another picture. And that worked really well. But since I'm using a virtual assistant at $2.50 to edit the photos versus my essentially $20 an hour photographer, I'd rather use the person's $2.50 time, even though it takes that person longer. It's 9 times cheaper. Peyton's asking, does a Mac make listing a lot faster versus Windows? I don't think so. I think they're the same. My setup is best for clothing. Essentially, the flat lay is the fastest. So this is a good, interesting analysis. So Matt does the flat lay. Matt is the genius that came up with the material. I have to replace my material every 3 weeks, Matt. So I bought like 100 yards of it, so I'm never going to run out of the material ever again. But I have to replace it every 3 weeks because it stops being sticky. But let me show you guys the difference. If you take pictures without a hanger, this is my opinion, I can do around 30 items every 40 minutes if there's no hanger. So that's like a little over a minute per item. If I have to put it on a hanger, it takes 20 minutes longer. So that's how big of a difference it takes. So if I had to hang my items and just hang it against the wall, which would be fine, then I would put them all on a rack before. In my other location, they do that. They steam every item because it's all women's clothing. So it goes on the rack, it gets steamed. All the items that are going to be photographed that day are all on a hanging Z rack. So it depends on your process. So there's somebody in the chat, eBug Studio, says that his number is 5.6. Takes 5.6 minutes to do the listing all the way through, source, all of that. And I think that's pretty much the max. So Zammy says he or she is getting 150 views, but no sales. So depends on what kind of item it is. If you're most likely, the item either doesn't have enough demand or it's priced too high. That's the two reasons. The supply and demand would affect how fast your items sell. Photo Room places your photos in the proper eBay format. That's true. It can save the template, but I think every single photo editing program does that. They save the template of what you use normally. Richard says, what's the fastest way to take photos of your cards? It would be a scanner. If you look at those big card companies, they're listing thousands of items a day. It's because they have the scanner set up. Alex is saying the biggest hurdle for time is the setup for photos. I agree with that. That would take you a lot of time if it wasn't set up. For me, we're ready to take photos in 5 seconds. All she has to do to take photos in the morning, turn the lights on, put the lanyard on, done. That's the setup. It's so fast. The setup is always the same. The lanyard is hanging right there. It's next to the light switch. She's ready to take photos as soon as she arrives. Yes, Kim is saying there's a delay on desktop with listing. Yeah, I have that same delay. It just eBay is going to take longer than you think. So Thrift is saying flat lace take longer because he has to take out the creases and wrinkles. I fold the items the night before flat, so it gets out most of the wrinkles, and my flat lay is now vertical. So my back is completely fine. But if you are shorter in height, it hurts your back less. So for me being 6'2", if I had to bend over and literally do flat lay on the ground, I would be dead. The first time I hired a photographer, I think I permanently injured him. This guy came over and I'm like, because I didn't know how to do it. This was like in 2016. I'm like, okay, what should we do? My first photos were on a wood floor, hardwood floor. And this guy came in, and the first time he put it on the ground, he was like, oh, pulled something. And I'm like, oh, this job might not be for you, because he hurt himself on the first picture in my house. So that could be like a lawsuit probably. But anyway, just be careful bending over for taking pictures. It can be brutal. Richard's saying, do I have any scanner recommendations? I don't. Maybe Frank in the chat, or Frank, I don't know if he uses a scanner for cards. Frank, do you have time to chat? What do you?
Yeah, Epson Workforce, I believe that's what it's called. Something like that. Yeah, Epson. If you look on Reddit and do the best ones, and get it on eBay used, because a lot cheaper than Amazon. The first one I bought was like $700. I didn't even look on eBay, and then I bought the same one a year or two later for like $150 on eBay. So.
I love that. Frank, what can you do to save time?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of a lot of that. So I'll show you one thing I did do to save time. Sorry about the noise. Is that okay? Is that a little annoying?
It's good.
Okay. How do I zoom this around? There we go. So this is how we currently put in bins, put the number. So there's only a couple items in each. So we didn't have to search through too many things. But now what I've done was have open boxes. I have open bins that perfectly fit in the shelves and utilize the whole space. And
Ooh.
every single SKU is visible. So so every single SKU is visible, and I don't have to open anything. I could just reach my hand in and grab it, and it's doubled, tripled our picking time.
Wow.
Now, yeah, and it utilizes 100% of the square footage. It's very hard to get totes that are exactly fit, but the cardboard box.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm trying to be as possible with improvements. And so I use the cardboard, and you could just, without being right next to the machine, like if you can see through that, like the whole thing. And so that's that. And this is what we have now. So it's not utilizing the whole space, and on the bottom too, they get tapered in. So it looks like we fit a lot, but honestly, those fit twice in the same space. And for me, a space issue. So that's been helpful. And then another improvement I did was we don't really price anything anymore. We use, just gonna go outside the noise. We use, so for Amazon, we used to price every single item. And a few weeks ago, I decided to not price anything, just use a repricer and price things high automatically. So now we just skip that whole process. And we've been able to list twice as much on Amazon. And on Amazon, when you list faster, like if you're listing the right stuff, it just immediately sells. So we've been able to double our sales on Amazon within 2-3 weeks. I've been selling on Amazon for 5 years, and I've never had a double like this from one little change. So yeah, doing really well. And yeah, the one last thing I'll say is I'm trying to really study hard Elon Musk's first principles. So how he figures things out. And the one question he asked about SpaceX was, he looked at all the components of a rocket and it was only like $1 million. And he's like, well, why does it cost $100 million to buy a rocket? You know, it's like, he's like, does it have to be that way? And so that's the one question where I'm like, okay, these are my constraints. Does it have to be that way? It's like, this is how eBay wants me to ship things and do the weight. Does it have to be that way? And by asking those questions, you can kind of discover things that you may have not seen before that could be improvements for you. Some are going to be improvements just for you, and some are going to be improvements that can help everybody. And
where did you learn about Elon Musk's first principles?
I just study a lot about the man, and I listened to a lot of interviews, and I've been listening to it for a while, and I only found one interview where he actually talked about this thing I just told you, where he's like, does it have to be that way? That one question. I think it was somebody else making an observation on it. And I love that question, because if you ask, does it have to be that way about your constraints? Because Elon Musk, you know, we're set. Most constraints are not like set in stone. Like the way we list on eBay, the way we list on Amazon, there's constraints around it. And most everybody just goes down the path and says, okay, well, this is how they want me to do it. And by asking each step of the way, by breaking it apart into its most fundamental aspects, and then on each aspect asking, does it have to be that way? You can discover things about the weight of your items, the size of the boxes, you know, the scale. Like I use a scale now that automatically updates the weight, right? So I don't have to weigh things anymore. I put it on the scale and it automatically updates it for me. It's a Bluetooth wireless Dymo scale, and I use Shipping Easy, and I literally don't have to think about it anymore. I sell all different size and shape stuff, and I just cut that piece out of it. I don't have to weigh things anymore. I don't have to size things anymore, because I use preset size boxes, and if it fits in that box, I have presets where I just click a button. Now I put a box on the scale and I click a button, and it automatically does all the dimensions and sizes for me. And I sell, you know, 50 different types of size stuff. So
Frank,
yeah, a lot of little things.
What repricer are you using?
On Amazon, I've tried a lot of different repricers. Some of them may be better than others, but I use the one on Amazon now. I've used about 4 or 5 different. Be Cool. I've used some more expensive ones that are $200-300 a month. And the one Amazon provides for you by default is the best by far, because they don't allow you to lose money on items. Like if you tell them to reprice something, they know what they're going to charge you for it. And sometimes I'll pay a penny, or I'll get a penny from them. But when I use other repricers, I actually lose money sometimes by accidentally pricing it. I have my minimum price too low, and then a lot of things get lost in the sauce when you use a pricer out of that. And when you're dealing with, you know, when you have your own product, you only have 50 SKUs, that's fine. When you have, like I have, I think over 2,000 items in Amazon right now, and every single one is different. It's hard to go through one by one and keep up to date. I just have one rule, one blanket rule for everything. Trying to sell things in a reasonable amount of time. And I just literally, my minimum price at $7.99 for everything, and maximum price is like super high. And then I let Amazon take care of the rest. And I'm surprised by what certain things sell for. By spending less time pricing, I actually sell things for more. Half the stuff I sell now, I'm like, holy crap, I had no idea I can get that much for it. And Amazon just, like, you'd think Amazon wants to undercut stuff, but I'm really surprised that they set prices at and how it sells for. Anyway, that's the tangent.
Thank you, Frank, for sharing that. I have a couple more thoughts, and then I have to run to go sourcing. One is, somebody said that Tech and Sports, and I run that Facebook group, and somebody put in the chat that his photos aren't that good. Last year, he did $1.6 million in sales on eBay. That's higher than anybody else I've ever seen. And made more profit and more revenue in less time than everybody else. So it's hard to argue with good enough. He also has 50,000 feedback and 100% positive. So customers are fine with it too. if he had a lot of negative feedback or a lot of like he doesn't, because the pictures are good enough. So you have to think about what's good enough for your own business. For some people, good enough is like my friend that runs One Luxotic Thread. He takes 6 minutes per item to take the photographs, including editing. That's a long time. But he has over a $100 average sale price in clothing. So it depends on what you do. I don't think you could take better photos than my friend Matt, different Matt, because that 6 minutes per photo, that's 10 items an hour. That's ridiculously slow. But his photos are like catalog quality. They're unbelievable. And he has no returns. So if you want to be the no return person, you need the ultra high, ridiculous, like those people who sell handbags and have 65 photos, like the 12 photos plus 40 more photos in the description, because they want you to authenticate it. And they're like, hey, if you don't think this bag is authentic, take it to these 20 different places with these 45 photos and they'll tell you it's real. If you want to be that level of reseller, then it depends on what you are. If you're selling used goods, you don't need to take exceptional photos. That doesn't make sense, right? If your average sale price is $29 like his, you don't need extraordinary photos. But I want to definitely study the Elon Musk things that Frank does, because tech and sports and Elon Musk have the same personality type, logistician, which means they look at all of the pieces before they start. Because I asked Tech if he researched Poshmark and Mercari. He's never even been to the website. He listened to what it is and was like, nope, that's backwards from where I want to go. So you know, looking at all the pieces, pick what's working for you, do it. That's a different personality type. That is a crazy personality type. It's very, very few people have that personality type where they knock it out. Also, I would say that another thing that Tech and Sports does is he takes around 8 to 12 photos of every item. So that makes a big difference too. Matt, how many pictures are you taking? I'm at 8.
It's right there. Probably for women's, it's closer to 10 or 11. For men's, it's probably 8.
Right now I'm at 280 items, and if I was trying to copy him, he's 314 a day. I think everything would blow up. Trying to get that extra 34 items would just be so, I don't know, he's very efficient. But yeah, that's 8 to 10 photos. I think that's really, really helped with search ranking. And I was looking at your store yesterday, Matt. Amazing sell through, amazing prices. Great job, man. That is
Nice.
yeah,
Thanks.
I love it. And you're also crowd favorite. So remember, when you want to do, and I think that you're the crowd favorite in every country. You have Australian
Oh
fans,
man,
UK fans.
feels good.
Everyone loves your feedback. So wait, Matt,
Thanks.
before we go, what can you do to save time?
Hire. I can get a better space and I can hire people. That's
Okay.
the only way for me to make it more profitable. Because right now I can only grow to a certain size of just me and Kevin. And that's a good size. I'm making a lot of money at that size, but I can if I had a bigger space and more people, I could make that 3 or 4 times that amount of money. You know, I can get up to that 1.6 million in sales a year like Tech and Sports, you know. So yeah, for me, I got to move out. I got to get a better space, and number one, and number two, after I get that set up and rolling along, I'll just hire more people.
All right. He's limited by the same things. Space, people. That's it.
Yeah.
When you figure everything else out, that's the only 2 limitations at the end when you have a system. That's why McDonald's doesn't also serve pancakes. They just, or maybe they do. That's why McDonald's doesn't serve, what do they not serve? Furniture. They just open up a second location, third location, 10 locations, and now a new McDonald's every 8 minutes. So I love it. This is cool. Yeah. Everyone in this group online aspire to be like Matt, where your only limitations are space and people, and have profit margins high enough that you can afford that. So yeah, junkyard dog interview is being requested. We should do that.
Awesome.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful